all smiles this week, that's for sure, as we go into the section on practicing the positive. This week we're going to learn how to practice an attitude of gratitude, as well as cultivate a brighter outlook on life. So I hope you enjoy it, pay attention, and I'll see you soon. The Declaration of Independence grants us the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, we're not granted happiness itself, we're granted the right to pursue it. The reason this elusive concept of happiness is something to be pursued rather than attained has its roots in evolutionary history. According to research, most human beings naturally have what scientists refer to as negativity bias, which means that we give more attention to the negative information compared to the positive information. For example, when most people look at their body in the mirror, rather than feeling appreciation and awe for the synchronization of their body's many complex biological systems, they notice a pimple. People's eyes and brains go straight to a perceived, quote, problem area or threat to ensure that we stay out of potential danger. The problem is, the brain doesn't always know the difference between a pimple and a tiger in the bushes. This negativity bias is attributed to a part of our brain called the amygdala, which uses 2/3 of its neurons' power in search of bad news. The amygdala is primed to find the negative, and once it does, the fight or flight alarm goes off and the negative event is quickly stored in the memory. To store a positive memory, however, research suggests that you need to hold the feeling in your memory for more than a dozen seconds in order to store it. Therefore, people have the tendency to blow negative information and events out of proportion and minimize events and forget the positive. Now, with our survival needs met, modern culture has moved into a time of material abundance and physical comfort. We've started to shift our attention and desires to the top of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we have the luxury to pursue fulfillment, purpose, and self-actualization. To take this next step up the ladder, we'll have to work against the gravity of our evolutionary conditioning. To pursue happiness means to practice happiness. It means to cultivate new habits and perspectives and recondition our brains to overcome our negativity bias. And this is absolutely possible. We can indeed improve our outlook, attitude, and intentionally create a brighter experience. The interest in human development and happiness studies have been around since the time of the early philosophers, and its popularity increased in the last century with the human potential movement. But it wasn't until 2000 that the field of positive psychology was officially launched. With the birth of positive psych came a shift from years of psychologists focusing on pathology, neurosis, and how to cure disease, to the study and research into how ordinary people foster happiness, genius, and flourishing. Now, there's just as much scientific rigor into how positive traits and experiences cause well-being as there is with how negative events cause depression. But where does happiness come from? One hypothesis is that happiness comes from getting what you want. As long as I can have more things and control my circumstances, then I'll be happy. But another hypothesis is that happiness cannot be obtained by making the world conform to your desires. The Buddhists and the Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome, they coached people to break their emotional attachments to people and events with which there's unpredictable and uncontrollable outcomes. They instead cultivated an attitude of acceptance. According to Professor of Psychology Jonathan Haidt, the truth lies somewhere in between. We must cultivate mindfulness and acceptance, and at the same time, people need external sources of happiness, such as positive relationships and a sense of accomplishment. According to another positive psychologist, Tal Ben-Shahar, happiness is the overall experience of pleasure and meaning. A happy person enjoys positive emotions while perceiving his or her life as purposeful. It used to be thought that happiness was a result of being healthy and successful. Now, positive psychology has demonstrated that it's the cause as well as a result. Being a happy person leads to optimal health as much as optimal health leads to happiness. In the famous Nun study, researchers obtained brief autobiographical accounts from a sample of 180 women in their early 20s just before entering the convent. Each autobiography was analyzed to measure the frequency of positive emotions and found that the nuns who had expressed the most positivity in their writing over 50 years earlier were more likely to still be alive in their 80s and 90s. In fact, 90% of the happiest quartile of nuns was still alive at age 85, compared to 34% of the least happy quartile. At age 94, 54% of the happiest, but only 11% of the least happy nuns were still alive. Greater happiness is also correlated with enhanced immune function, and the suggested reason for this is that happy people tend to choose more healthful behaviors and avoid the well-documented health hazards of people with negative mental states. Research by Sonja Lyubomirsky has shown that in addition to boosting immune function, happiness boosts energy levels, engagement with work and with other people, as well as improves our physical and mental health. She says, quote, "In becoming happier, we bolster our feelings of self-confidence and self-esteem. We come to believe that we're worthy human beings deserving of respect." Her studies also show that your being happy is beneficial to everyone around you, your partner, families, communities, and even society at large. When thinking about how to improve happiness, most people tend to go toward the first happiness hypothesis and start to think about which life circumstances they'd like to change. And the top of the list is often more money, a bigger house, and a better job. Quote, "Yes, that would be the trick. If only I had more blank, then I'd be happy." However, this doesn't look like the most efficient route to take when setting out to improve our happiness. Research suggests that only 10% of your happiness is determined by life circumstances and material possessions. Life circumstances can be defined as demographic, gender, age, ethnicity, past traumas and triumphs, marital status, education level, health, income, and your physical appearance, and where you live. One of the reasons these things that you think would make you happier don't is the theory of hedonic adaptation. This is what positive psychologists refer to as the tendency for people to quickly return to a stable level of happiness, or a happiness set point, despite major positive or negative events or life changes. For example, if someone loses weight, gets a raise, moves to a bigger house, or buys a new car, eventually his or her expectations and desires rise in tandem, which results in no permanent gain in happiness. For obvious reasons, it's called the hedonic treadmill, where we continue striving for more but seem to never get anywhere. Okay, so now let's learn how positive psychology breaks down happiness. 10%, as we just learned, are life circumstances. 50% are fixed or genetic. This is similar to body weight. Our happiness seems to have the set point, and this is confirmed by lots and lots of twin studies. Another hypothesis is that we have fixed personality traits, such as extroversion, which is proven to be more highly associated with happiness than, say, introversion. So our main focus is going to be on the 40% that's controlled by our attitudes and behaviors. This is our room for improvement. This is where we can increase happiness by the way we think, the people we spend time with, and by the choices we make in our daily lives. There are many ways to make improvement in this 40%, some of which we've focused on in previous sections, such as being mindful, using your strengths, achieving your goals, and choosing a more optimistic perspective. But there are still a few positive practices we haven't yet learned. The highest level of well-being, according to positive psychologist Martin Seligman, is a level he calls flourishing, which is made up of 5 essential elements in the acronym PERMA. P is for positive emotion. You can cultivate a sense of gratitude, pleasure, warmth, or joy. E is engagement, using your strengths and being in a state of flow while working towards your goals. R is relationships, having accountability, connection, and social support. M is for meaning, a sense of purpose in life and a belief that you're part of something greater than yourself. And A is for accomplishment, improved self-efficacy and the belief in your ability to evolve and succeed, positive results from actively pursuing your goals. The 2 elements that we're going to focus on primarily in this section our positive emotions and cultivating meaning. So let's take a look at why and how positive emotions can help us flourish. According to positive psychologist Barbara Fredrickson, quote, positive emotions expand cognition and behavioral tendencies, momentarily expanding people's attention and thinking. End quote. This cognitive flexibility that results from experiencing positive emotions opens people up to new possibilities, perspectives, and encourages exploration of the world and promotes a sense of curiosity about new ideas and people. Positivity truly, quote, broadens our horizon. Another positive psychologist, Alice Eisens, her work shows that when people are put into a positive mood, they come up with relatively more creative solutions to problems and are more likely to think, quote, outside the box. The build part of the broaden build theory refers to the upward spiral that's generated as positivity begets more positivity. In a broadened mental state, one develops resources that endure into the future and help us to flourish. To counteract the negativity bias and see positive results from putting broaden and build into action, Fredrickson found that people can ideally cultivate a ratio of 3-to-1 positive to negative emotions. Interestingly, people who have an equal proportion of one positive emotion to every one negative emotion tend to be depressed. In order for a marriage or relationship to be healthy, it suggested that couples actually even need 5 positive emotions to every one. And in the workplace, 6-to-1 is needed to perform well in a team. Just as we know it takes commitment to exercise to build a strong body, you need to set out a disciplined program and intentions if you want to build a more resilient and happy life. A positive practice or ritual can be anything from meditating, going on a regular date with your spouse, pleasure reading for an hour a day, or taking a walk in nature. However, there are a few rituals that have been scientifically proven to increase positive emotion, and the first one is keeping a gratitude journal. According to the professor at UC Davis and expert on the science of gratitude, Robert Evans, people who are consciously grateful have been found to, quote, be relatively happier, more energetic, and more hopeful, and report experiencing more frequent positive emotions. They also tend to be more helpful and empathetic, more spiritual and religious, more forgiving and less materialistic than others who are less grateful. Furthermore, the more a person is inclined to gratitude, the less likely he or she is to be depressed, anxious, lonely, envious, or neurotic. So this week, you'll have an opportunity to practice cultivating the positive emotion, gratitude. In your handout or workbook section, you'll find more detail about the following evidence-based practices. There's more on the gratitude journal, or what we call counting your blessings. An exercise called What Went Well and Why. Ritualizing endings or transitions. And the old ones, saying grace. Make sure to check them out. Okay, the next exercise is look for what's working or taking in the good. Remember, to overcome negativity bias, you need to experience 3 positive emotions to every 1 negative. And according to positive psychologist Marcy Chermoff, by simply setting the intention to look for what's working, you're activating the reticular activating system, or the RAS. This is a group of cells at the base of your brainstem responsible for sorting through the massive amounts of incoming information and bringing anything important to your attention. Have you ever realized that as soon as you set the intention to move to a new house, all you notice is for sale and for rent signs everywhere you go? Or if you've decided that you're going to buy a new red car, all of a sudden all you see on the highway are red cars? This is the reticular activating system in effect. Marcy tells us that when you decide to look for the positive, your RAS makes sure that's what you see. Looking for what's working can be as simple as starting off your day with the intention to notice and savor even the smallest positive events and observations. In your workbook, there are also more detail on the practice of random act of kindness and another powerful one and evidence-based one, loving kindness meditation or metta. Check those out too. The M in PERMA stands for meaning. We've discussed in the last section how our mind assigns some kind of meaning to every experience we have. So when we're talking about meaning in the context of flourishing, we're talking about experiencing our lives in a way that gives us a sense of deep purpose. A life with purpose is one where you feel you're a contribution and that you're here on earth for a reason. As Martin Seligman puts it, meaning is, quote, belonging to and serving something that you believe is bigger than yourself. This could be family, religious, or spiritual institutions and a political cause. There are a few ways to explore and cultivate purpose in your workbook, including infusing your goals with purpose and writing a life purpose statement. However, the journal practice I want to introduce now is called the $1 billion question. The energy behind the pursuit of meaning and purpose is that of passion. To help explore what you're passionate about, we can try on an inquiry. What do you really, really want? And here it is. What would you do if you had all the money in the world? What would you want to create, support, protect, or change for the benefit of the world around you? Where would you feel driven to invest not just your money, but your time, your focus, and personal energy? For artists, the answer is often about creating something meaningful or beautiful. For healers, it's often about regenerating and sustaining well-being. For entrepreneurs and inventors, it's about bringing something new and useful into reality. For justice seekers, it's often about defending the defenseless and making the world a better place. So please, if nothing else this week, take time to contemplate and journal about this life-changing question. I look forward to hearing all about it. All right, so I am very happy that you made it all the way through this video and would be grateful to you if you do your journal assignment. I will see you in the coaching this week.